It's time once again to slip into your camo, grab your bow, and join us out in the field for another episode of the Up North Journal. The Up North Journal crew is knocked and ready to rock for another exciting adventure. So let's step outside and hit the trail.
Welcome back to another episode of the Up North Journal, everybody. I'm host Mike Adams, sitting in the cabin tonight with Dan DeFaw. Before we get started, we want to help you save some money.
That's right, folks. Don't forget to use our promo codes to save that money. And let's start off with buckbaits.com. That's right, the brick and mortar store of Buck Baits down at Sterling Heights, Michigan at 15 and Dodge Park. Go over there. If you're on the website, buckbaits.com, use the promo code UNJ20. That will get you 20% off your order.
For those of you who are looking for Easy Cut products, make sure you go to easycutproducts.com. And when you're there, use the UNJ promo code UNJ15 off to save 15% off your order.
And let's not forget Lincoln Roan over at packermax.com. It's never too early, never too late to think about the Packer Max. Go on over to packermax.com, use the promo code UNJ25. That'll get you $25 off your order over at Packer Max Outdoor.
For those of you looking for some new firearms and firearm products, make sure you go over to theislandarmory.com. While you're there shopping, use the promo code UNJ10 to save 10% off your order there.
If you shot that bird of a lifetime and you want it mounted, don't forget Troublesome Creek Taxidermy. We've had them live on the show. We've talked to them. You want to get 10% off your order, go to Facebook, go to troublesome.creek.7, find their website. If you go to our website, UNJ, make sure to click on the button to download the form. You get 10% off over there using the code UNJ10.
Looking for that game call, whether it be a squirrel, whether it be goose, duck, deer, make sure you go to JPO Game Calls. Look for them at jpogamecalls.com, and while you're there shopping, use the UNJ10 promo code to save 10% off your order.
And Miller Deer Tracking, the man that seems to never sleep during deer season. Get 20% off your next deer tracking using the promo code UNJ20. Look for Miller Deer Tracking on Facebook or give him a call over at 810-240-4891.
Looking for the hottest new plastics to take on the water, whether it be hard water or soft water? Make sure you go over to southernindianabaitco.com. While there, use the UNJ promo code UNJ10 to save 10% off your order.
Deer Camp Coffee, folks. We drink it every night on the show. You want to try it? You can go to the brick and mortar store at 15 in Dodge Park at Deer Camp itself, or go to deercampcoffee.com. Also use our promo code UNJ10. You get 10% off your order. And don't forget, get a bag of the UNJ medium roast blend there as well.
All right, Danny, where's our live view camera to look from tonight?
Welcome back to another live episode. Another fresh live look, looking out over Northern Tech University up in Marquette, where it is a nice balmy 65 degrees here on the 4th day of October, and I'm thinking it's not really turning colors yet.
It better turn quick.
Right? You're going to go on a color tour and you're going to see kind of a one color, green.
It better not be green.
Right?
I've been waiting on this trip all year.
Right?
So
now you're going to go up there and, as we've seen live, but you know what? Enjoying our Indian summer here, where I think it was 85 today. And
it was.
Tomorrow, it all changes.
It's not officially an Indian summer until we get cold weather. And then it warms up after our first frost.
Depends on, okay, so if we want to have that. We had a couple that were pretty close to a first frost, but You're right. But anywho, I tell you what, you know, the weather the last couple of days, with it being hot, and our opener here in Michigan kicked off on
the first,
like
it does every year,
right? You know, we seen some bucks hit the dirt, right? And first one we want to go out to.
You're not ready yet, are you?
Well, for some reason
you're not prepared.
I was.
No.
Something crashed me just like as we were getting ready.
Sure. Okay, if you say so.
I say so, and that's the way it's going to be, because I can.
We're waiting on him to pull a picture up, folks.
Right?
Okay. You're almost there.
There we go.
All right, here we go.
So there we go. So a big shout out to Derek Vaughn over at Sunrise. This one was nicknamed Casper, I guess.
Yeah, the friendly ghost.
Right? Well, he's a dead ghost now.
That's nice.
Right? Didn't make it till the 1st of didn't even make it past the 1st of October.
There you go.
So that was pretty cool.
That's a nice buck to take on opening day.
And that is definitely get your nice buck out of the way.
Yep.
What are you into the rest of the season, right?
Well, if you got 2 tags, it is Right, it is. You got the whole season left on.
And another big shout out here, real quick. Let this picture come up. He was on an endeavor to take a deer with a recurve. He's been practicing all season long. Obviously, my
computer screen's dead.
Jeez, oh, peace. I tell you what. But, yeah, so here in Michigan, October 1st has begun. Even though it was a warm week, the weather's going to change here. And we'll go from there, and we'll head off into, hopefully, a good hunting season. There we go. Shout out to Larry, who took his first deer with a recurve.
Nice.
Yeah, so...
It's not an easy feat.
No, he's been practicing all summer, so he finally connected, I guess, Sunday morning.
Guy you work with?
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah.
Gotta like that.
You do. And then you also gotta like our guest tonight. He is the one and only from Indiana, our pro staffer, Maverick.
Maverick. Top Gun.
Yes.
What's going on, Mark?
It's a beautiful day. Busy as always.
Hanging out in lovely Indiana. How's the weather down there?
Right now, it's still warm. A little warmer than I want it to be. I think it was like 80 today, but we got a cold front coming tonight. That's going to change things. Hopefully get some of these deer moving.
You know, and it's funny that you talk about getting those deer moving. In our chat, Kyle Sharp has joined us, and he starts off jokingly, says bow hunting, he's never tried it. But then he says you could do a whole show on the 2-buck tag debate here in Michigan.
And I think we pretty much have.
Yeah, if you talk about any. But down there in Indiana, Mark, looking at the season ahead of you going on down there, you're actually, for your real job, not the fun stuff of going out hunting and stuff, but your busy time is coming up. So how do you see you getting out in between your busy time to do some hunting?
Yeah, that makes a little bit of a challenge. The business I'm in, being in the grain division, harvest hits coincides with this hunting season almost day to day. I mean, we're busy, but fortunately I have a couple of coworkers that can offset the workload while I'm out. I can't take a full week just to go spend a full week in the woods, so I've kind of cherry-picked a few days, and I'll take a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, a couple times, probably one in October, one in November, and go spend 3 days at a time in the woods, and hopefully I hit it just right.
Well, how far is the farm, the quote-unquote, the farm from your residence?
It's about an hour.
Okay, so it's manageable to be able to make some of those quicker trips and get down and put some time in hunting when you got the opportunity.
Right. I usually go down the night before, get everything prepared. That way I can get up early before daylight and get out there. Unfortunately, I can't hunt right after any of the days that I work because I work till 5:30 or 6 in the evening. And just by the time I get down there, you have 40 minutes maybe of daylight left.
Gotcha.
I don't want to rush it.
Right.
Exactly. So you've been prepping the farm all year long. You've got your food plots ready. If anybody follows Maverick on Facebook, you know he does a
Trailcam Tuesday.
Trailcam Tuesday, and interesting trail cam that you posted on October 1st. A picture that was taken 9/26 is that of a little fawn.
Yeah.
So
that's a little one. I mean that's real little.
Right, and we got a picture of with Mom, it looks like, and another discussion you could have a whole show on is the first, second, and third ruts and how do you fix them and all that. But do you see a lot of that down by you, Mark, with these late fawns coming through?
No, typically most of the fawns have dropped by late June. This is an anomaly for me because I have never seen a fawn that small this time of year. I hope it likes frozen milk because I have a feeling Mama's going to be feeding that one through December.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I mean, that's classic. Looks like classic third rut. We're pretty familiar with it here in Michigan. The time it happens, it really puts a young fawn behind the 8 ball going into the fall. As far as size and stamina, all that kind of stuff. So.
Right. Well, and when the mama comes into estrus and the buck's chasing her and she's trying to get away from him,
yeah,
the little one's got to figure out how to keep up.
Yeah, predation could be the solution to taking care of that. I mean, truthfully, it's not good for him. So,
or it actually might work in the buck's favor if the doe doesn't want to go too far.
Yeah.
from the fawn. You know, depending on how the rut works and what your bucks are there. You know, it might become, when she goes into estrus, it might become an easy play for the buck if she doesn't go far. Now I noticed, speaking of bucks, how did you, with these cams that you got, how does your buck to doe ratio look?
It's a little lopsided. I really I don't know. I've seen all kinds of stories, read all kinds of stories about the ratio being, 1-to-1 or a 2-to-1. I would say right now the buck to doe ratio is does probably 3-to-1 right now on the farm.
Well, again, on the camera right now, I've been showing you had a couple of little bucks kind of testing each other's waters, kind of setting a little, having a little fight there. But obviously, these are little guys in your area there that are just kind of getting their feet wet with setting. They think they're setting their territory, but have you started to see anything of the bigger bucks in the area kind of starting to poke their head out with what's going on as we head into fall?
Yeah, so it was kind of weird because all summer long I wasn't getting pictures of anything but just the small ones, the 4 points, the spikes. It was about end of August when started to see on trail camera some bigger ones rolling through, still in velvet, but they don't stay long. It's like you might catch them on camera one time out of 2 weeks. So they're just passing through.
Passing through, doing their thing. Looks like you got looking branches set up here next to your trail cams.
Yeah, so I put in some rub trees, then I put in some rope, put them, somewhere near a food plot. I haven't seen much sign yet of any rubbing or scrapes being made. I've made a couple mock scrapes just to try to get things kicked off, but the activity just hasn't spiked yet. I'm kind of hoping this weekend I'll see some better activity in the space out there.
Well, the picture we got up now is you've got a licking branch put in the trail. You've got a couple ropes hanging from the tree on the left. Have you ever tried grapevine, to use a grapevine?
Yeah, natural, just something natural that's out there in the environment already, because we have vines everywhere out there. And a lot of times you'll find your scrape under one of those. I've cut a piece off and tried to hang it from a tree, and I'll give this a try. It doesn't hang on to scent like a rope does.
What are you putting, what kind of scent you using, like orbital gland?
Yeah, we're using pre-orbital, and I'm kind of experimenting with a little bit of different brands right now, just seeing what's out there to make it work. But, putting the urine in the scrapes, sometimes that works. I've actually experimented with just being in the scrape myself, and I've had deer in the scrape 3 hours later. And they're just checking that foreign smell out to say, oh, something's been through here. Could be a coyote, could be a bobcat, could be me.
So, right. So looking at the last couple of years and what you've done, was there anything that you changed this year? A different way of doing something different, planning something different, trying a different technique? I mean, what was the biggest improvement you've made there at the place, and how is that working for you?
Yeah, so last year I harvested 3 deer, and all 3 of them came off of a field edge so I like hunting fields just because you can see deer more often, because they may be 200 or 300 yards away, but at least you see deer.
Mm-hmm.
And last year, that's where I took my 3 deer, were right off the edge of the bean field, but you don't see the big bucks cruising those open fields. So
Right.
This year my strategy was to move a couple of stands around. I needed to strategically be able to get the bottom pasture down by the creek set up in a way where I could get a stand on either end of it and play the wind, but also strategically want to be in the woods a little more this time and not be overlooking a 3 or 4 acre or 10 acre open field. I wanted to kind of be blended in with the trees, let them kind of slowly walk by in their natural environment without them having to worry about being right out in the open. And hopefully I've done my math right, and I've got a stand I think is going to work out pretty well this year. I really did.
So you've moved some stands around strategically, and you got them back and off the edges, like staging areas.
Yeah. So as the wooded hills roll down into the spot of pasture, it's about a 2 acre pasture. It's overgrown the last 15 years, so it's got sycamore trees and stuff that are probably 6 inches in diameter sticking up out of it. The grass is like 7 foot tall, and I went in and I carved out a food plot, and then I've mowed trails that they use. I've mowed them to where it opens them up coming in on all different sides. leading them to the center. And then I've got one stand on the north end of it looking right down the middle, so that I have a good clear line of sight from the north to the south. And then I've strategically put another deer stand on the southwest corner, watching the small creek that feeds in from two other big ravines, because they seem to like to follow that creek line as they work their way through the bottoms there.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all enclosed in the woods. It's before you get out into that open area. I think they're going to use that as a bedding area, and if I can get in there and sit still long enough, they might actually come walking through there.
Are you using that blind primarily for gun season, or you've got it set up for bow?
I've got it set up for bow and gun season. I went out and bought me a new rifle this year, so
What are you
I
using?
haven't hunted rifle I probably haven't hunted rifle or shotgun in probably 15 years.
What did you wind up buying?
I ended up getting a Ruger 243, which is the smallest caliber you can use on private land, and put a big loophole scope on it. Got it all sighted in.
Bolt
And
action?
about 135 yards from one end to the other, so
Okay.
should be a pretty easy skip shot.
Bolt action rifle?
Bolt action.
Model 77?
No, just just the standard.
Okay. I love the Model 77. I got two of them.
Right? That's a good rifle, good round. Besides the deer, we posted some other. It looks like you've got a nice set of families of turkeys on your property. Do you have a fall season for turkey down there?
We do. Yeah, we do have a fall season coming up, and you can get a tom or a hen for that. So I usually don't hunt them in the fall just because I'm preoccupied with deer. But I might throw a turkey call in my backpack occasionally and just mess around with them a little bit.
Take them with a bow.
There you go. You got a bow with you, Michael. Zap them with the bow. While you're looking at your turkey and you got your deer going, how's it look for the predators on the property? They got a picture of a bobcat here marking his territory, and are you seeing an increase in seeing them on camera as well?
That's the great thing is I'm not seeing any Yotes on the property except for like one a month, which we used to have repeat offenders every day. I was getting a pair of coyotes on the camera, and that's kind of gone away since about June. And then the bobcats, we used to have 3 on the property. Now we just got this one that's kind of showing up every now and then, cruising. And it's kind of weird because the way I got my camera set up, at 6 a.m. I may find it in the bottom pasture, and by 7 a.m. it's up by the bean field. And then by 8:30, it's crossing the other side and working its way back through the holler again. So it just kind of patrolling its area. But that's really about the only predators we have that I've seen, which is good.
Yeah, you gotta like that. Have you guys done any predator control down there, or is it just by happenstance?
It's just by happenstance. I thought when we had the new litter of coyotes this year that we were going to have a problem, but evidently they found living on that farm is not the most suitable for them.
Is that because you put the whammy on them, or just the traffic?
I think it has a lot to do with me being down there.
Yeah.
But it also, I think, the number of deer on our farm, it's 60 acres, 10 of it's tillable, so it's 50 acres of woods. And the deer population is not that strong this year in the space that we have. I mean, I bet there's 9, maybe 10 mature does on the property right now.
Okay.
So, if they're dropping 1 or 2 fawns, the bucks are just the young ones that were, last year or the year before, still tagging along, following around. But most of the bigger deer and the bigger herds, I strongly believe, are either north of the property where there's a lumber company that has a huge acreage, or east of the property where they just clear cut last fall and it's all grown up. And I think they're all bedding over there on that 40 acres.
Yeah, that sounds to me like that's where the food sources went
I
to.
was just about to say, they moved where the food source went. But I noticed you've got these little bandits as well. Raccoons seem to be hanging out there. If you ever wanted to do some trapping, it looks like you got a good spot for that.
Yeah, anybody that wants a trash panda, they can come down there and get one just about any day of the week.
That abundant, huh?
And the problem with them is I'll put a rub tree up, and they just think it's a playground. They break branches off of it. They're a nuisance. Frustrating.
Well, they don't read the manual. Come on.
That's right.
Right?
No, they're curious, that's for sure.
I'll try to find the picture. I know you got a picture in here. I seen it when I was loading these up. I think it's the raccoon. He's actually climbing your tree that you put out there.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, I think it's a black and white photo, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm looking for it right now, and you know, it's kind of funny that these little guys, you know, you wouldn't think, but they can get into a mess of trouble.
Yeah, and they always kind of travel in gangs, and they get up on one of those little limbs, and they just dance all over that thing until it's broken. And then they climb up on the tree your trail camera's in, and then they start messing with the antenna and the wires. I had one wire on my solar panel this year got cut clean in half, and I had to go repair that.
Well, we were talking earlier about what you've done to the property this year, and Tammy is wondering what food crops have you planted this year, and have you changed from years past?
Yeah, it's a good question, Tammy. I'm of course using Antler King products. This year I went with what they call their Southern Greens. They designed that to grow in the South, and they found that it works equally well in the North. Up in Wisconsin, they've experimented with it. And it stays green longer, but it kind of gets you your collard greens, gets you some brassicas in there. So I've experimented with it in 2 places this year. The turkey love it. The deer, once it gets to a certain height, they come in and they just go forage in it for a while. So Southern Greens is probably my favorite. I also put out a little bit of honey hole, which is a brassica blend for fall. And it actually, without really doing much to the ground other than just raking the leaves out of the way, you just hand broadcast it, and it germinates quick. And I'll probably have some brassica bulbs, probably 2 or 3 inches in diameter by the end of this month. So between those two, that's kind of where I go with the food plots. Now, trophy clover is my number one. If there's ever a food plot you just want to create that's going to last 6 or 7 years, trophy clover is the way to go. It'll take over an area real quick. And if you get a drought like we've had, it'll go dormant, but it'll pop right out of it in the first rain, and they just keep growing. You usually have to mow it about every 3 or 4 weeks.
What's been the biggest challenge for you this year as far as down on the farm, getting ready for the season, other than not having enough time?
Yeah, because never seems to be enough time. My wife has been real kind to let me go down there and just hang out. That's kind of my getaway place. You know, I work at a computer all day long on conference call after conference call and all that happiness. So getting down there, I think the biggest challenge for me this year was trying to take on bigger tasks than what my equipment was designed for. I had this ambition to clear the bottom 2-acre pasture and get it all back to a regular 6-8 inch tall grass pasture. And I found that there are some trees that have those big old thorns on them.
Mm-hmm.
And I cut one of them down, trimmed a few limbs off of it, and stacked them off into the big tall grass. And then when I went down there to mow, I wasn't paying attention, and I put one of those right through the front tire of my mower. And that ruined my moment, because I'm 1,000 yards from any building, downhill. So I had to figure out how to get that back up, get it fixed. Had to buy a new tire for the mower, and I think it's probably was my biggest challenge this year. Was my ideas about what I wanted were bigger and greater than the tools I had to do the job at the time, and I tried to make it work.
Mm-hmm.
So now the strategy is let's do smaller increments. Let's not try to take on such a big project like that. Let's break it down into bite-sized pieces, and then once you create a new space, you got to keep it maintained. So then I keep adding to the list of things that I need to do every time I go down there.
You know, absolutely. I think it's like food. You know, our eyes are always bigger than our stomach. You know, we see something, it's like that's a good idea. I think we're going to do that, and then it's like, well, what do I need? And it's like, I don't need that. I'll use this. You know, and you don't take with you what you need, the quality of tool you need, or you just really underestimate it.
Yeah, the underestimating part is what's the saying? Gonna need a bigger boat.
Yeah, we're gonna need. Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, you know,
gonna need a bigger boat.
Right. And so when you go in there and you get something like that, and you know, you just got to reevaluate, but you're not gonna stop. And so I finally found that picture that I wanted to show everybody of the deer that was by your tree. Looked like you created a scrape under it. You know, in the evening, a nice buck is right next to that tree, and then all of a sudden, in the next picture, you got the raccoons hanging in it, trying to bring it down.
Oh yeah.
You know, and that's just their curious nature. But when you're out there doing it, so going back to the food plots, did you do a pH test at the beginning of the year?
Yeah, I do a pH test every year just to see what the pH is, especially in new spots. The older plots, like trophy clover, it's a perennial, so it's going to come back for 6, maybe 7 years in a row. I won't pH test that because I'm probably not going to do anything, just let the clover grow. But if I'm going to do a new spot, I'll go in and I'll clear the area I want, try to get it down. Every place that I try to put a food plot, I don't go in and till it up. I just broadcast on as much open dirt as I can. And I usually will test that plot. Like the one plot I got's like 60 feet wide by 200 feet long. Mm-hmm. So I'll go to all 4 corners and then 1 or 2 spots in the middle, and I'll get a sample, put it all into one mix, and do my pH test. And within 20 minutes, I got an idea of whether it's 5.5 or 7.
And what on average, what's your plots looking like? Looking good?
My plots are running about a 6.
Very good.
And everything will grow, whether it's a 5.5 or a 7, but you're not going to get the yield that you would if it's like down in the creek bottoms where it's a 5. That's not really going to grow very well. It'll grow, but it's going to be pretty blotchy. It's not going to be filled in and lush. You get a good spot with a 7.0 pH and it gets plenty of sunlight. You can broadcast that, and it's going to be beautiful.
And you talk about that the reap what you sow reward. The difference between a 5.5 to a 7 is a lot for some plants. And so if you plant one crop in one field this year, do you rotate it into another plot, into another crop, into that same field for next year, or do you keep it the same?
It'll depend on what I put in. If I put any trophy clover or game changer clover into that spot, I will keep it that way for 4 or 5 years. But if I do something like an annual, like a Southern Greens or a Booner Buffet, a Honey Hole, Slam Dunk, anything like that, I'll change it up every year. Sometimes I'll take half the plot and do it one way and do the other half of the plot with another one. The one plot that I have that's east of what we call the turkey foot stand, the front section closest to the stand is in Southern Greens. The second part of that, which is about the 40-yard mark and beyond, is in Booner Buffet. And that kind of gives the deer a variety to choose from. Plus, it also kind of keeps them there throughout the season because some plants will be palatable early on where others won't until we get that good first frost.
Right. Absolutely.
And Scott Bass is joining us on the chat tonight. Big celebrity night, and he says, "Hey, Mark Coleman."
That's right. It's tough getting these big celebrities like him in here.
That's why you got to reach out to these guys and you got to get them on board here and get them on to it's tough. He's a busy guy.
He is a busy man.
But speaking of that, have you put down any lime this year at all, or are you just going to let it? You took your sample, you saw what numbers you got. Did you add any lime throughout the year, or are you just letting it go?
Just letting it go. I'm a kind of a cheap food plotist. I try not to invest more than I really have to get, and that's why my plots don't look real lush and green all the time, because I won't go and I won't put the fertilizer down. I won't put the lime out. Eventually, someday, maybe I'll have time to do that. But right now, it's like I got to get this food plot in. I'll spend 20 hours getting the ground prepped, and then 15 minutes just hand broadcasting, and that's pretty much it. I really don't have a whole lot of time to really just go out, buy that product, put it out. It works wonders on your ground. That's for sure.
Yeah, it does. If at any point, if you can throw any type of fertilizer or lime down at any point, it'll help you. And as Tammy says, Mavericks all-you-can-eat buffet for yards. And you look at that. There was some talk. I forget where I was. It was online, obviously, and talking about conservation and then it's this and that, and we talk about having the deer you're going to be hunting here on your farm, but thinking all the food plot that you put in, how many more deer, turkey, all the other animals that it feeds. It's pretty amazing how some people can get so narrowly focused on something and just
Consumes your time,
right? But yet, look at all that food he's got. The deer are going to eat that up.
Oh, yeah.
And that little fawn might survive because of it.
Could, very well could.
Do you have any apple trees or persimmons or anything like that on the farm?
We had one apple tree right up close to the farmhouse, and the wind blew it over this year, and it took it right up out of the ground, so we had to get it all cut up. But they used to just they would pick that thing clean. They'd stand on their hind legs to eat those apples out of the tree. The raccoons would help knock them down. Now, I did plant 2 years ago. I planted 100 persimmon trees on the farm, and they were just, little saplings big as your pinky. I mean, they weren't 20, 30 inches tall. And I would say maybe 10% of them survived.
Due to being browsed?
So, what's that?
I said, did you lose them because they were browsed by the deer?
I think I lost most of them because of my inexperience with planting trees. I'll own that one because I planted them, and then I didn't go back down there for like 4 or 5 weeks, and the weeds grew up around everything. Mm-hmm. And I noticed the raccoons love new holes in the ground, and they would dig them out to try to get to whatever's under them. So I had a lot of little trees that were just dug up, laying on its side 4 weeks later, but I let the weeds choke them out to the point that they just really didn't have a chance.
You didn't do any fencing around them to keep animals away from them or anything?
No, it was my first run.
Yeah.
I got these trees, free from living lands and waters out of Illinois that deliver them to about every state that have, and they're free. So you have persimmon trees. Let's give me 100. I'll see if I can make a few of them live. I did a new plant this year of 200 trees, but they were swamp white oak, red oak, hickory. Those did well because I took my time, paid attention, went back, kind of made sure that they were being taken care of. And I would say I probably had at least a 50, 60% survival rate with them this year.
Okay. Is that something you want to get more into?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I want to try to get more fruit trees on the property.
Okay.
And, of course, you're limited to the options depending every year what Living Lands and Waters wants to provide, what they have a surplus of. Mm-hmm. This year they didn't have any fruit trees, but first year that they do, I'm going to grab a few of those and really put in the effort to make an orchard versus just planting trees wherever at random.
Gotcha. There you go.
And that's the thing. I flipped over to the, if you're ever doing a food plot, obviously listening to Mark talk about it, Antler King has a great, for their product, a great kind of like an Excel file of what pH needs to be for it to grow, if it's a perennial, if it's an annual. And I was looking up, you said you use honey hole?
Yeah, honey hole is one of our number one sellers.
And no sweat, right?
And I've used no sweat, but honey hole, Southern Greens.
Ah, there it is, Southern Greens, that was the one. And both of those actually only take 5 and above. That's actually really good for that.
It'll grow just about anywhere.
And it's kind of exciting to hear it stays green longer further north than they thought, right?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But yeah, you can go over to antlerking.com and check out. Now there are some that says 7.0, 6.5, but there again, you add some fertilizer, add some lime, you'll get it up there in no time. And then you can, it's soil to seed contact, which, here at UNJ we use Packer Max and get that soil to seed contact as best as we can.
And one thing that most people get hung up on is they'll overseed. A lot of the seed is, especially like the treated seed that's orange color because you can see it better. Mm-hmm. Trophy clovers like that, you can see it real well. But when you're hand broadcasting, you look down and you're like, oh, I think it could use a little more. It's kind of like when you're using your salt and pepper shaker. You can see the pepper and how much you're putting on, but you really don't know how much salt you put on until you taste it. But you don't want to overseed because then they're going to fight each other for the nutrients in the ground. So if you go by and you happen to see, usually if you set that broadcaster and you just go and you see, if you can see the seed on the ground, you've got enough. You don't have to see a seed every 2 to 3 inches. Right. It'll broadcast, they'll grow up, they'll grow together, but it'll give them more nutrients to choose from than overseeding.
Well, when you get the package in, and it gives you a number to set the spreader at, right? Yeah.
Yeah, whether you're using a ferminator, pulling it behind your UTV or whatever, or if you're just hand broadcasting, it'll give you, the idea of what you need. Some bags of seed have varieties in them that are different sizes, so you just got to be careful, that you set it to where it will allow the smallest seed out, but not all the seed at the same time, because you're either going to end up with a hopper full of big seeds that didn't make it through the hole, or you're going to end up with a whole bunch of small seeds mixed in with the bigger ones. It's a game that you have to play. I'm getting ready to do fall, winter, spring here once I get the beans out, and it'll be a a crop that'll grow here in the fall, but then it'll also come back to life in the spring with some ryegrasses and stuff. Kind of anxious to see what that's going to look like.
Now, have you ever for Antler King, have you ever planted the sugar beets or the radishes?
I have planted the sugar beets. Yep.
How'd that work out?
It did okay, except there again, I wasn't putting it in the spot that I felt like. I thought it was a good spot to put it in, but it got too much shade. It came up. The deer came in, started mowing it down. It never really got to its full maturity state before it was already gobbled up by the deer.
You think if you ever had the means, would you put like a fence around to keep the deer from coming into the plot?
I've considered it. I've actually even got the steel post out and bought a plastic fence and thought I'm going to section off a 10 by 10. Keep the deer out of it for as long as I can until hunting season and then take it down. And I just, there again, one of those big ideas with not enough time.
So you've never actually deployed it?
No. Okay. No. I moved the fence post about 200 yards into the woods, leaned them up against trees, said, I'll finish this later, and there they sit.
Okay. Well, out of everything we've talked about, what do you see as your biggest challenge this year going into hunting season?
Not enough time in the stand.
Not enough time. That's what you're afraid is going to happen. It's not enough time in the stand.
I think I'm going to, and I had to schedule my time off around my other coworkers who have already scheduled their time off. So I had to take the only open Thursday, Fridays that were out there. So I'm hoping I hit it just right. I'd really like to be out there that November 4th to the 10th, which seems like it's that peak rut time where the deer are on their feet all the time throughout the day. But I couldn't get that one, so I wanted to make sure I got at least the 2 days right before firearm season opens. So the 16th and 17th of November, I'll be in the woods. Opening day firearm season on the 18th, I'll be in the woods. But then I won't be able to come back to that until the end of the month. Gotcha. So it's going to be trying to make the best of the time that I'm there and hope that I hit it just right and picking the right stand. That's probably another one of the nemesis of having a property like the 60 acres is stand placement and blind placement. And I feel like every year I find a new spot that looks really good, so I want to put a stand there. Well, now all of a sudden you've opened up all your options and you're like, okay, where am I going to sit today?
Right. Yeah, and you got so many different travel corridors, and it's like how to pick where to go without spooking game and all that.
And it's probably good that I don't have more than 3 cell cameras because they would be telling me where the deer are moving, where I'm not.
Yeah.
And then I'd be like, why didn't I sit there today?
Right. Now, does anybody else hunt the property besides you?
Yeah, so my brother lives next door, and he hunts, not as passionate about it as I am. My oldest brother, he would come out and hunt, but he had a stroke in February, and his whole left side's still messed up, and he's probably not going to be able to hunt this year, but he's adamant he's going to get himself better to where he can actually hunt. If nothing else, he can come out, and I'll put him in a blind sit with him, and he can watch while I hunt. But, I mean, his passion for deer hunting was really one of the biggest reasons why I was in it, was because he wouldn't miss an opportunity to be in the woods.
Right.
So now he's kind of at that point of, well, I'm not going to make it cumbersome for my brothers. I'll just not hunt. But no, so me and my brothers, we hunted. The land's in the trust, and with Mom still being the grantor of the trust, she's very particular about who gets on the property and who doesn't. So we've had some bad experiences with inviting buddies over to the farm that didn't quite respect the property as much as they should have. So Mom put a nix to that and said, no, this is just going to be my kids. And I could probably convince Mom to let me take somebody on the property just because of the relationship we have, but she's been burnt by a couple of other guests that maybe didn't follow the rules the way they should have when it comes to listening to the expectations. You don't want to field dress a deer in the driveway and then leave the gut pile.
That's not a good no.
That's a nice how you do, thank you, whatever. Thank you for me using your land or whatever it might be, and
here's a gut pile for you.
Yeah, total, that brings up another aspect of hunters we hear about. Nothing worse than when you go out on public land and you really can't take that pop bottle can with you. You brought it in here, take it with you out of here.
Right.
And in here, like you said, your mom grants this person rights to hunt the property, be thankful about it. Actually, instead of leaving a gut pile, you might want to leave a thank you card.
Right.
Right? You can always do something nice. You just, It makes me sick to hear those stories. 'Cause all it does is take one. Like that was one of the biggest things I remember years back with what's the program here in Michigan where people you can go hunt their land, the public land.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
But people get a bad taste in their mouth.
Yep.
All they need is one.
Yep.
To get on there and
they're done with it.
Right, exactly.
At that point, they just don't want to let anybody else out there.
So what about your brother? Tammy brought this up, and I was actually going to ask this too. What about if you set your brother up with a tripod for a crossbow, rifle, muzzleloader?
Yeah, so he can't climb anything right now. His left arm doesn't work at all. His left leg, he kind of uses it like a peg leg just to kind of lean on. But I have told him that with the Indiana law, you can, as a disabled individual, hunt from your vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
You can, and I said, I'll be happy to bring you out here. I'll set up a ground blind right by the big red barn back in the back, drive you right up to it, get you in the blind, and deer will come out within shooting distance of that. And just, I'll know you're in a safe spot. I'll hunt where I can actually visually see the blind, so if he ever gets out of it, I'll know. And I don't know, he's still kind of in the dumps about his physical state right now, but we'll get him out there eventually.
That'll be awesome. I hope you do. I hope you can convince him to do that, because I think just a few minutes of being able to do that. I know with my dad, as he got up into his age, I did the same thing kind of. He had a hard time walking in the woods per se, so I just took a pop-up blind, kind of just basically set it on the side of the trail and got him in it, and he was so happy just to be out there.
That's half the battle. Just getting out there and clear your head.
Right, exactly. Yep. So, I hope it works out, Mark. I really would do that. It'd be awesome. I would love to see Trailcam Tuesday with a full set of pictures of him out in the woods.
Yeah, me too. And I've toyed with the idea of just stopping in and picking him up one day and telling him to come on out to the farm and let's just sit and let's watch the deer, and if one comes close enough, get him set up with a tripod for his crossbow, and just let him pull the trigger. He's one of the luckiest guys I know when it comes to hunting. He'll go out and stand. He doesn't follow any of the rules. He doesn't do sin elimination. He smokes cigarettes in the stand. He doesn't follow the rules, but the deer don't seem to care.
There's nothing wrong with that, man. That's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Making noise, eating an apple, crunching up papers. You got to take that wrapper off that cosmic brownie, so.
Right?
You got to, and it makes a little noise unless you put it in like a little Ziploc before you go. But, one of my favorite stories of my oldest brother was the year that, it's probably been 5 years ago, I was sitting in the stand for 2 hours watching the field. He always shows up late. He never gets there early. And he shows up, and it's like 1 hour before sunset. I watch him pull in the driveway, get out of his car, light a cigarette, load his shotgun, and walk the opposite side of the field along the edge of it. As he's getting almost parallel across from where I'm hunting on the other side of the field, he stops, crouches down, scoots into the woods about 10 steps, and shoots, still smoking a cigarette. And I'm like, did he just... And I saw the doe jump up in the air and run, and then she fell down about 20 yards. And immediately I was like, you got to be kidding me. I've been sitting here 2 hours watching, waiting, being patient. He gets out of his car, makes all kinds of noise, walks up the edge of the field, sees the deer bedded down just inside the woods, slips in, shoots it, and then I watched him as he got his cell phone out. I knew he was going to call me, and sure enough, my phone started ringing. And I'm like, yeah, I saw the whole thing happen. He goes, well, I'm just going to drag it out to the edge of the field, and I'm going to go on back to my blind so you can finish hunting. That's the kind of nice guy he is. But it was just heartbreaking for me. Go, where's my luck? Where's my opportunity?
Well, Tammy Doug says it sounds like a good time. Coffee, cigarettes, and a little Debbie treats.
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
But, you will have that faction of hunters that tell you that lighting a cigarette, a pipe, or whatever it might be is their ticket.
Yep.
And I've heard more times than not, people will tell you the story of, yep, I lit up a cigarette, I look up, and there's a deer.
Yeah.
In this case, poor Mark's out there freezing his little tail off, and his brother comes along, and I'll shoot this one.
We used to hunt with a guy on state land back years ago, and every time he'd be out hunting, it never failed. Every time he'd drop his trousers to relieve himself, a buck would come out. And he'd half the bucks he shot with his pants down. I mean, just slop house luck, is like you're saying.
Well, I can say that my oldest brother probably enjoys himself more hunting than anyone, just because he's in his normal environment. He doesn't have to make any sacrifices.
Right. That's awesome.
So, Mark, I'm going to be confident. I'm gonna go really confident. You're going to get one this year. So when you do, are you going to cut it up at the farm, or are you going to take it back home to have it processed, or what's your means of taking care of your animal?
Yeah, so I've gotten really good at field dressing deer. Like I said, I got 3 last year. The unique thing is I haven't killed a buck on this farm in 19 years. Everything has been a doe, because I've been very selective about what I will and will not harvest, because I really want to get the age of those bucks up. Even though everyone around us, most of them are out-of-staters that come in just for a couple weeks, will shoot whatever moves. I really want, I think this year I have my best chance to do that, because I've practically been the only one on the farm back there, not a whole lot of other traffic. But once I get a deer, I take it to my processor that I've taken it to forever. So I'll field dress it, then I'll haul it into the processor. It's Back 40 Butchering, which is about 5-6 miles from where I hunt. It's an Amish run facility, and they do a phenomenal job. I can have it doesn't matter what size the deer is. They'll process it for me within 2 weeks, depending on how busy they are, and everything's vacuum packed, and it's only $78.
Oh, that's a good deal. That's a good price. So you got an hour drive back to the processor, right? That's closer to your home.
The processor is 5 or 6 miles from the farm.
Oh,
so
okay.
It's just
all right.
Yeah, it's like a 15-minute drive.
Okay, so the reason I brought that up is Denise was up north this weekend, and there was a traffic jam at the bridge. So there was vehicles. They were in a big, nice bus, nice and comfy. And lo and behold, the first vehicle that drove by had a moose head on the back.
Oh, wow.
Right? So, obviously, probably coming from the Sioux. We were thinking probably coming out of Canada, because we have moose in Michigan, but we don't have a season. So, I was just looking at this, that, that's a nice rack to come home. And
Do they have moose in upper Minnesota?
I think so.
A huntable population?
But I don't know if it's huntable.
Okay.
That I don't know.
Okay.
So I'm assuming they came through the Sioux.
Probably through the Sioux. Then.
Right?
Yep.
And so it was Sunday evening, 5 o'clock. This one I wasn't, this was kind of cool. So then the next one I saw, this one kind of scared me. It's a picture of a bear on the back of a pickup truck. They got the dog box there. Now, knowing that it's this warm, that looks like a whole bear to me, not skinned out. Or do you think it's skinned out?
It's not skinned out. You mean gutted?
Well, I know it's gutted.
Okay.
But
why the hell? No, it's not. It's not. That's not. It's not skinned at all.
Right. So, do you think they're risking a chance of this meat going bad?
I would most definitely say so. You said it was what, 60-some degrees?
It was 5 o'clock, probably 60s up there.
Okay, and they're right. Where's this at?
Right at the bridge.
This was at the bridge.
Yeah, the Mackinac Bridge.
That looks like it's on just a standard highway. Is that 2?
Yeah, it was either 2 or it's close to the guardrail.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. That I would be concerned.
Right, exactly. So that's why I asked Mark how he was going to take care of his deer, because you see things like this that make you go hum.
Yeah.
And when they get this bear home, it's like, well, that might have been a waste.
Could have been.
Especially the way you got to do it here in Michigan with points, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So,
And we run into that problem at the farm. Since my processors are Amish, they're not open on Sundays.
Uh-huh.
If I hunt Saturday afternoon and evening, and I get a deer late Saturday evening, and we get that back to the shed, I either have to hang it overnight with some ice bags in it, depending on how cold it is, or I've talked to the owners, I've known them for years, they'll tell me, hey, Saturday night, if we're closed, come on out anyway. We'll see you pull up the driveway, just drop the deer off, we'll run out and drag it into the cooler, and we'll take care of it, on Monday. So it's kind of nice knowing that I can still hunt on a Saturday evening, and if I have an issue with my deer, I can get it dropped off.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people, if they're new to the sport and don't know, it probably quite a few of them go bad. Deer, bear, what have you.
I know when
the bear, you got to get cool quick.
Well, that was the thing. And when my cousin shot his bear, it was like mid 80s, 90s, because it was September. Mm-hmm. And the first thing the outfitter did was got a 50-gallon drum, cold water, and just
put it in there
and just submerged it. And and then Denise showed me that picture, and I'm like, whoa. But like you said, it happens, right? So
the thing about antelope that if you're out shooting speed goats out there, you want to get them. You want to get them, harvested, cleaned up, put in the cooler as quick as you can.
Well, I think that goes pretty much with just any animal that you take. You got to get it cooled down just so you don't lose the meat.
Right, exactly.
Especially September and early October.
Oh man, especially October, because you go out in the morning, it might be a little chilly. You're like, oh, okay, but by 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, you're taking off your hoodie or whatever. It's now 50, 60. You shoot a deer, it won't take long for them to start blowing up on you.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
well, we're running up towards the end of the show here, so we'll wrap it up here. But just hang on with us here after the show. Don't hang up. So hopefully this season is good for you. Hopefully you get your brother out. But we want to see some pictures. Hopefully that you got that big buck of a lifetime finally. So hopefully everything.
Yeah, he hasn't made it on trail cameras. He probably won't until I'm holding him. So yeah, that'll be the moment.
Yeah.
I do want to give a shout out to Adam Lynn. I hear that our pro staffer is under the weather today.
Yeah, he was supposed to be with us tonight.
He was supposed to be with us. We were gonna have you guys kind of go back and forth about your setups of what you guys were looking at. I know he's got a couple bucks on cam as well. My backyard bucks, I have not. I have just a 3-point in right now, but I know the first week of November that'll change. So it's been quiet. Yeah, but. Adam's feeling under the weather. He texted us this morning. He says he couldn't be on, so big shout out to him as well. Get well soon. Hopefully, whatever he has gets over with by the weekend. That way he can get out and do some hunting.
And next week, we're not going to have a show.
You are going on a color tour.
Yeah, I'm going to be freezing my butt off on the edge of Lake Superior next week.
Well, it's Michigan.
It is.
One
Michigan.
day you might be freezing your butt off. Next day you're going to be in shorts.
Actually, I hope it is cool. I'm tired of this warm weather. I mean, it's just too warm for this time of the year, so I'm ready for that cold.
Yeah, well, I've got my bibs on tonight, so I'm a little warmer than normal, but I got to get them stretched out.
There you go.
Too much good eating during the summer months? Too much barbecue?
Well, you know what? You've been posting those pictures of that little barbecue you've been barbecuing away.
Yeah.
Doesn't look too bad there, pal.
Yeah, but no, I like my swamp buck stuff. It's pretty good, Piano.
There you go.
And you got your buck pole seasoning from Deer Camp. Looks like you had something on your pit boss.
Oh yeah,
and,
that's some deer steak.
Did we get an invite?
No, we did not.
We didn't get an invite.
No, I've been checking my mail.
It's in the mail.
Yeah.
Probably got lost.
We didn't even bring the sody pops. What did you put on top of that?
On top of what?
The deer steaks that you did on the pit boss.
Bacon jam.
Nice.
Oh, okay.
Bacon jam goes good with everything.
Yeah, if it's bacon based, you're
Bacon
right.
goes good. Yeah, with everything. So yeah, I agree.
Right. So all right, Mark. We'll be back in 2 weeks. We will have our big finale of all our interviews, talking with the Daily Press, with the group up there. They will all be in one office.
How many people we having on?
Well, good question.
Free for all?
It's going to be a roundtable discussion.
Tom Ginsel says that his buddy he used to hunt with years ago smoked like a chimney, and he was always successful.
Well, and even Tammy said all 4 of the deer she got was while a cigarette was lit.
Yeah. I know people that used to do that all the time.
Right? So all right, that's going to do it for us this week. We won't be here next week, but see
the
you in
week
2
after.
weeks? 2 weeks?
2 weeks we'll be back again, and we'll have our last interview with people up in Escanaba for the big show up there in November. So stay tuned for that. If you're listening on iTunes, make sure you give us a review. That helps us and helps the people who support us as well. And if you're following us here on social media, smash that like button. Give us a follow, like, share. And yes, Tammy, 700 is the next show, number 700. It's been a few.
It's been a few. 700. You, Mr. Mark Coleman, you made it. You're only the 699th caller.
There ain't nothing wrong with those numbers.
Oh, it's a few. Couple crooked lines there. So, all right, that's going to do it for us this week, folks. We'll see you again here in a couple weeks. Y'all take care and be safe out there. This episode was brought to you by
Deer Camp Coffee,
Buck Baits,
JPO Game Calls,
The Island Armory,
Hacker Max,
Sunrise Archery,
and C3 Better the Hunt Technology.
Thanks for listening, and join us again here next week. Until then, remember, as we always like to say, if you're out on the water or in the woods, shoot straight and be safe until next week on the Up North Journal.